this is basically to involve demonstration. We think that if you involve demonstration, this will basically overcome the difficulty in the math. And basically, we said that you don't have to do a lot of experiments. There are some experiments that are very rich, and you can keep milking them over and over during the whole semester, bringing them back again until you really get the concept into the students. And then after that, we discussed number 2, and that's basically what is in-class learning activity that you can use. And we said there are 2 approaches. One, if you have a lot of time, and the other one, if you have a lot of money. So if you have a lot of money, you can basically buy all those mini PIV equipment, and there are some vendors in our exhibition that actually show those if you want to come and go and see them. But on the other hand, if you have a lot of time, the students really love to be involved in equipment building, and they turn out to be a very good design project for a lot of faculty. So if you actually collaborate with the person responsible for the design project, they can build the experiment for you, and the students get ownership by developing those experiments. And we also discussed that there are very cheap experiments that you can also do, like rocket building, but some universities ban this. Also, vortex ring cannon, those are very cheap and very exciting, especially if you shoot them over a cone and see their expansion. And one thing that's really practical and easy to do is all type of fluid power transmission. Eventually, after they graduate, they will get involved in something like this, so they better learn it while we are here. And one example of this is a divided compression to light up a flame. That could also be involved in some kind of combustibility as well as power transmission. And that's it.
Let's just take the next table. You ready?
Okay. I think a lot of what our table was discussing was a lot of me specifically being evangelical about education methods in physics education research that have been shown to work for specifically physics classes, and how the engineers might think about using some of these techniques, such as peer instruction, cooperative group problem solving, and concept tests. Basically anything you can use to get the students engaged is a good thing. And yes, you do have to sacrifice some lecture time for that, but most of the students don't care about derivations anyway. So it's good if you can get them actually working and excited about working. So what are some other things we talked about? So another thing we talked about is that you're not going to make, if you introduce some of these techniques, you're not going to make everybody happy, okay? But because people learn in different ways and people have different different opinions, so defaulting back to just regular lecture can feel safe, but the general idea is, like, as long as you introduce a variety of techniques into your class, then some people will benefit, and that will be a good thing. And we named some resources we had. So I mentioned Compadre. There was, where's the aerodynamics? What was the?
For students. Aerodynamics for students. Yeah.
Aerodynamics for students.
If you teach aerodynamics, it's
Yeah.
a great resource.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I don't know if there's anything else we discussed.
Okay. Cool.
How about this table?
You folks got anything to report? Yes? Ron?
He's
Maria?
taking notes.
Ah.
For me, I think you're the right person because you have more idea about active learning.
Okay. So, I mean, without repeating things, we talked about sort of the challenges between involving more active learning, and then that takes up more time and actually covering all of the material. But if you just run through it, are they actually learning? And so this idea of incorporating active learning without sacrificing material, and or covering material without sacrificing learning, and just discussing some of our challenges that I don't think any of us had a solution to it, but that we've all sort of tried different things. Talked about some of the standards, some of the wonderful old NSF videos, which are actually, I think, still quite a great resource for teaching fluids, especially at advanced levels. And we also talked about some less expensive demos that are really like toy-based. So in my class, using things like cars, balloon-powered cars to show variable mass systems, and you can get these things very inexpensively, for a couple of bucks for the whole course. And so using some, and then the students can touch them, play with them, and break them, and that's okay. And just designing experiments based on toys. A lot of toys work on simple fluid and dynamic principles that we can use.
Okay. Anyone want to report at this table?
Nothing happened.
Oh, that's not true. Okay, here, Shannon.
All right.
So we talked about how it was great for Rachel. She gave extra credit for physics Halloween costumes in her class. And she found that, students dressed up as silly physics concepts, like there were a couple of vectors, and there was a lot of people with Newton's apple falling on Newton's head. And so a similar thing could be done for fluids classes. We talked about iPhone apps, and I showed off my suite of iPhone apps. And so afterwards, I'll send you all a list of my favorite iPhone apps for fluid mechanics. We mentioned the FET simulations, which are aimed at beginning physics students. I think they're also appropriate for fluid students. I know that there's one for Bernoulli's, and this is an online app where you can change quantities in the equation and see what happens to all the other variables. So it's a nice interactive simulation. And we also talked about if you're going to do these interactive things in class, especially concept questions, which are multiple choice, you can use the Poll Everywhere app and website for collecting student responses and quantifying them right away. So it's basically a free clicker kind of application. So there was Poll Everywhere and Socrative, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And I think what we'll do is, once you're all on the email list, maybe we can all post these resources that we're all collecting all the time, and that way we'll have a nice list of such things. How about this table?
Okay. All right. So we talked about question number 1 and number 2. So how much engagement is enough? We feel the more the better. If you can make the math engaging, if you can make those concepts engaging, or even those equation derivation engaging, that would be best. But of course, it's a very hard thing to do. So where are you at from traditional lecture to the fully flipping lecture, or the fully classrooms? So we are kind of in the middle. Myself as a combination of traditional lecture and the flipped classroom. I have some activities, but it's still far away from fully flipped classrooms. So I feel that it's a sort of balance in terms of the effort you put in for preparation and also amount of learning for students. So for we would like to include more flipping techniques. We want to learn how. Question number 2 in class active learning activities. We have several activities, and for example, we give students let them choose an interesting topic in fluid mechanics. They give a short presentation in the classroom, 5 to 10 minutes, and does factor into the grading. For me, I put in 5% of a grading in this. So they choose the topic itself. They need to develop a simple model. For example, for how much how much pressure loss is in the fire hose, how much thrust is generated for the jetpack in order to lift up a person. So they find a topic that they are interested in, and they do the modeling, and they present that in classroom. So that gives them some authority in their own, for their own learning responsibility. Okay, we do group activities. So students they work with each other for problem solving. For example, how big you want your parachute to be in order to have a safe landing. So that type of interesting questions, they can work together. And I also have experimental demos. These are very small experiments, very simple demos. I take let's say 50 feet long thin tube and do just very quickly 1 to 2 minutes measurement. How fast the flow speed is, and how high that high difference is, and you can plug in then you have group activities, work out the formula and how this can explain the phenomenon you observe. So those are some of the activities we do in the classroom. Thank you.
I think we have a few things left that weren't already discussed. We also took on questions 1 and 2, plus we also talked a bit about controlling large classes and creative assignments, the things that hadn't been mentioned. Maria mentioned that it's nice to essentially poll the class at the beginning and ask them about what's a thermofluid device that you would like to know something about by the end of the class, and essentially turn it in on note cards, and then use the pile of note cards then to generate your examples for the rest of the lectures. Another thing, which of course I got out of this group several years ago and have enjoyed using, is the picture and description assignment, where you tell the students to take a picture of a flow or a flow field or a phenomena, and then explain it all on one piece of paper and turn it in at the end. And that seems to work out pretty nice. In terms of controlling large classes, everybody's got to sort of find their own way in some sense. It has to be a personality match. But in particular, when it comes to doing active learning assignments, the things that we came up with is there always needs to be some kind of accountability. At the end of the assignment, whatever it is, there has to be something that they have to have gotten out of it. You need to end the assignment as the instructor and tell them what they should have found. Plus, they also need to turn something in, okay? Even if it's for 1% of a percentage of one homework or something like that, it's still got to be put there. And my recommendation is that sometimes the students really enjoy these and they get out of control. So you put them at the end of the lecture so that they don't eat up too much time. The other thing is that at the table we had between 2% and 1/3 in terms of active learning. And it seemed like the 1/3 was probably about right, but the 2% was low, and on my own stuff is typically 10%, and I know that's low. Other things that, let's see, that was pretty much it. I guess the other thing to mention is, again, the simple demonstrations are always nice, particularly if it's something that the students can do for themselves and then repeat in groups. Actually, as like a year ago, I like to have them do things with paper, because they almost always have some in the room. Anyway, and that's about where we stood.
All right. Is that all the tables? Everyone's reported out? Where's Nigel? Do you want to talk about your blog for a sec?
Yeah, briefly. I mainly want to recruit people. So I've been working with predominantly Ben Sill, who's a retired faculty member at Clemson, and a few other people to aggregate simple 5-10 minute demonstrations that you can do in an introductory fluid mechanics class. My background is civil engineering, so we like to keep all of the differential equations out of it, and vector calculus out of everything. It's also finite control volume analysis stuff that we do. My email's on the sheets going around. It's mdkaye@clemson.edu. Email me and I can share. I'll send you the link. I can't remember it off the top of my head. There's probably about 40 odd different demonstrations, all indexed by different topics that we cover. And we've had people ranging from like surface tension up to Bernoulli's equation, and even some flow stability problems. But really, I'd like to continue to expand that, and so anyone that's got a simple demonstration that they use in class, and I'd like to help work to write it up to get it out on the web so that everyone can use it. And I try and write it up in such a way that there's actually like a detailed sort of like analysis and physical explanation of what's going on. And then at some point, I need to go back in and, as just Lev was saying, you need to engage in some way, right? You can't just you stand at the front, you do the demonstration, that's great. So you need to get the students to engage some way, either doing some analysis of what you've done, make predictions about what they're about to observe, things like that. I haven't got that in these descriptions yet, so I'm going to go back and do that at some point. But if you have these demonstrations, please send me an email, and I'm happy to work to write it up and get it out there so that we can all benefit from that. Thank you. Your email? nbkaye@clemson.edu.